Hello friends, welcome to our channel Angrezi Sahitya. Today we are diving deep into the profound and haunting novel Beloved by Toni Morrison. This masterpiece, which won the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 1988, deals with the themes of slavery, motherhood, trauma, and healing. The novel is published in 1987, set in the aftermath of the American Civil War. The novel explores the psychological scars left by slavery and how the past can never truly be overturned. The novel begins in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the 1870s, with a woman named Sethe living in a house known as 124. However, this is not just any house, it's a place cursed by spirit of Sethe's deceased daughter. The house is haunted, and the presence of the ghost has made it an oppressive, unsettling environment. Sethe lives with her daughter Denver, and while the ghost causes physical disturbances in the house, the haunting is also a metaphor for the psychological trauma Sethe carries from her past. Sethe's two sons, Howard and Bugler, cannot cope with the ghostly presence and leave the house early in the novel. This leaves Sethe and Denver to face the haunting alone. The house, which was once a symbol of potential freedom and peace, now becomes a place of isolation. The haunting forces Sethe to confront the past she desperately tries to escape. This spirit represents not only the ghost of her child, but the broader trauma of Sethe's life, trauma she can never fully escape. From the very first chapter, the novel sets a tone of eerie mystery and emotional weight. The spirit in the house isn't just supernatural, it's a manifestation of the deep emotional wounds Sethe carries, wounds caused by slavery and loss. As the story progresses, Sethe will be forced to reckon with the ghost and, more importantly, with the past that keeps her trapped. The presence of the spirit marks the beginning of the novel's exploration into memory and trauma. Sethe's attachment to 124 mirrors her emotional attachment to a past that is painful but impossible to forget. The house is haunted because Sethe too is haunted, and the reader begins to see how memories of slavery continues to haunt her and her family. Through a series of flashbacks, we learn about Sethe's painful past. She was born into slavery on a plantation called Sweet Home, which at first seems a relatively more human place under the ownership of Mr. Garner. While Mr. Garner doesn't mistreat his slaves as much as others might, the reality of slavery remains brutal. Sethe, like all the slaves on the plantation, is treated as property, forced to work without rights or dignity. After Mr. Garner's death, the plantation comes under the control of a school teacher, whose cruelty and abuse take a darker toll on Sethe and the other slaves. A school teacher sees the slave as less than human, and under his rule, Sweet Home becomes a place of even greater suffering. Sethe experiences severe abuse and dehumanization, which marks the beginning of her deep-seated trauma. In a desperate attempt to escape, Sethe flees Sweet Home, pregnant with her fourth child. She is aided by a young white woman, Amy Denver, who helps her give birth to daughter Denver. While they are on the run, this marks a key turning point in Sethe's life. Her escape from the brutality of slavery is an act of defiance and hope for a better future. Sethe's will to protect her children from the horrors of slavery is evident in this decision, and her love for them is central to the rest of the story. However, even though Sethe reaches Ohio, the psychological scars of slavery remains. The past is not so easily left behind, and Sethe's haunting memories of Sweet Home follow her. She struggles to reconcile her desire for freedom with the emotional and mental baggage she carries. In many ways, Sethe's past will continue to shape her identity and her actions, especially when the ghost of her child returns to haunt her. Now, the novel takes a dramatic turn when a young woman named Beloved arrived at 124. This mysterious figure is weak, disoriented, and has no memory of her past. She introduces herself as Beloved, and although her true identity is unclear, Sethe believes this woman is the spirit of a dead child returned to life. Beloved's presence has an overwhelming effect on Sethe, who is drawn to her in an almost obsessive way. She believes that Beloved is the child she lost, and this belief compels Sethe to shower Beloved with love and attention. Denver, Sethe's living daughter, begins to feel increasingly neglected as Sethe's focus shifts entirely to Beloved. The house, already troubled by the previous haunting, becomes even more intense in its supernatural disturbances. As Beloved's presence grows stronger, she begins to take on a more demanding role in Sethe's life. She is not just a passive presence. Beloved is force, one that feeds off Sethe's emotions and her need for connection. Sethe becomes consumed by Beloved, while Denver becomes more isolated and desperate for attention. Beloved symbolizes Sethe's grief and guilt. She is the physical manifestation of Sethe's lost child, but she is also the embodiment of Sethe's inability to let go of the trauma and pain of the past. Her arrival forces Sethe to confront the past in ways she had never anticipated. The ghost that once haunted the house is now real, and Sethe must deal with the consequences of the actions she took years ago. Amid the growing chaos brought by Beloved, Paul D., another former slave from the Sweet Home, returns to 124. Paul D. has his own history of trauma, having been captured and forced into hard labor on a chain gang after being separated from Sethe. His reappearances offers hope for Sethe as they begin to rekindle their romantic relationship. Paul D's return represents a potential source of stability for Sethe, someone who shares her past and understands her suffering. However, as Sethe becomes more absorbed by Beloved, Paul D becomes increasingly concerned. He cannot understand Sethe's attachment to this mysterious figure and being to worry about her mental and emotional well-being. His own unresolved trauma prevents him from fully connection with Sethe, and he becomes frustrated with her obsessive behavior towards Beloved. Eventually, Paul D decides to leave 124, unable to cope with the intense emotional atmosphere and his own demons. His departure is significant, as it highlights the difficulty of forming a stable relationship after experiencing trauma. Paul D, like Sethe, is a product of the brutal system of slavery, and his inability to heal fully is a key reflection of the novel's larger themes of emotional and psychological scars. Paul D's exist underscores the novel's exploration of how the past shapes the present. Sethe's need to protect and connect with Beloved is rooted in her trauma, and it prevents her from building a future with someone who cares for her. As the novel progresses, Sethe's traumatic past comes to the forefront. One of the most shocking revelations is that Sethe, in her desperation to protect her children from the horrors of being recaptured and enslaved, killed her infant daughter. This moment, which Sethe had kept hidden for so long, is one of the most painful and complex aspects of her character. Sethe's decision to take her child's life is not one made lightly. It comes from a deep maternal love and a desire to spare her child from the unimaginable suffering that slavery would bring. While this action is tragic and morally complex, it also underscores the themes of sacrifice and survival. Sethe believed that by killing her child, she could preserve her dignity and protect her from the horrors of slavery, even if it meant taking her life. The return of Beloved forces Sethe to confront the truth of this act. The ghost of her child, now embodied in Beloved, demands that Sethe faces the consequences of her choices. The novel doesn't offer easy answers, but it shows how deeply the trauma of slavery affects its victims, leading them to make unimaginable decisions in their pursuit of love and protection. Sethe's past, her guilt, and the weight of her actions will remain central to the novel's resolution. The revelation of this truth shows how much Sethe is still bound by the choices she made, even as she tries to heal. As the story progresses in the novel, Sethe and Denver are isolated from the local community, which makes their struggle harder. In Beloved, community plays a crucial role in healing from trauma. Sethe's isolation had kept her trapped in the past, But the support of the local African American community begins to shift things. Led by a woman named Illa, the community comes together to intervene in Sethe's life and help her confront Beloved. The women in the community gather outside 124, singing and praying, offering Sethe the collective strength she needs to face her past. Their intervention becomes an act of solidarity, showing Sethe that she is not alone in her pain. Their support is essential in her journey toward emotional recovery. The act of coming together symbolizes the healing power of shared experience and mutual care. Sethe, who had been consumed by her grief and guilt, is able to begin the process of letting go of her past with the help of her community. The women's collective effort to free Sethe from Beloved is a turning point, signaling that the only way to heal from the trauma of slavery is with the support of others. This act of communal healing highlights one of the novel's central messages, that no one can heal alone. The trauma of slavery is too deep for people to bear on their own, and Sethe's journey shows the importance of finding solace and strength in others. In the final stages of the novel, Beloved's grip on Sethe begins to loosen. With the help of community, Sethe confronts the painful truth of her past and begins to release the guilt and trauma that have been holding her captive. Beloved, the manifestation of Sethe's grief, gradually disappears from the story, and Sethe is left to face her future. The disappearance of Beloved represents Sethe's liberation from the past, a moment where she can begin to move forward. It is a bittersweet departure. Sethe has lost a part of herself in her obsession with Beloved, but she also freed from the weight of that past. The house, once haunted, becomes a symbol of renewal, as Sethe and her family can now move on with their lives. Beloved's exit symbolizes the possibility of healing even after the most traumatic of experiences. It is a hard-earned freedom, one that comes only after Sethe had faced the deepest parts of her pain. Now, let's discuss the themes and symbolism explored in this novel. Beloved is filled with rich themes and symbolism that contribute to its emotional depth. Some of the most important themes include the legacy of slavery. The novel demonstrates how the trauma of slavery doesn't end with freedom. Sethe's struggle to move forward shows how the past continues to shape and haunt the present. Another important theme is motherhood and sacrifice. Sethe's act of infanticide is a tragic but understandable act of motherhood under the extreme pressure of slavery. It reveals the complex relationship between love and sacrifice. Another important theme is memory and trauma. The non-linear structure of the novel reflects the fragmented nature of memory. The characters are haunted by the past and their lives are shaped by their inability to forget. Community and healing is another important theme explored in this novel. Ultimately, the novel is about how healing is a communal process. The support of the community is key in Sethe's journey toward emotional recovery, demonstrating the power of solidarity. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Toni Morrison's Beloved. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with others, and subscribe for more literary discussions and analysis. Until next time, happy reading.